double, double.
There. Welcome to the Dubl A show. This is Greg Aalvik, and we're here all the way. We're kicking into lesson 7 today. Wow, we're all the way up to lesson 7, and today this lesson is about the power of omniscience. You might have predicted this was coming since we've already talked about omnipresence and omnipotence. You could go back and look at those other 2 lessons and check them out. I think the first one was omnipresence, and I forget which one had omnipotent. Maybe it was the last one I just did, omnipotence. Lesson 6, I remembered. So cool. So anyway, you want to, if you catch up on that a little bit, then you just come right here and dive right in. Otherwise, you're going to hit the deep end real quick, and you might want to catch up. So for those of you who have been following along, you might be able to predict how this is going to go. And a lot of people think omniscience means God knows everything there is to know, right? And so God knows everything that everyone knows and more. God has this infinite knowledge. And if you checked out the first lesson like that, that's not the accurate definition of what omniscience means. Omniscience isn't about God having the capacity to know everything. It's about everything that is knowable or is known or can be known. Every thought, every idea, every little bit of information out there possible to be gleaned came from God. And he was the source. And that's rough to actually stomach if you grew up in a traditional church. But that's actually what it means. When we censor it and we limit its meaning, because, come on, y'all, you know when you go to church, right, that they never want to attribute anything bad that happens out here in the world to God. But he is the source. Come on, let's get real. That's the truth. We only like to give God credit for shit. We don't, and it's only the stuff that we see as good. That was good. So God did that. And if it was bad, the devil did that. So that's why, the devil's out there. And of course, that's not honest. That's not an honest approach to the subject. And to conclude that, the truth happens to be brutal. And the truth is open and honest. The truth don't care about no reputation. The truth just is what it is. The truth is. If God makes everything, God makes everything. It all comes from him. Got to leave it that way. It flows out of his essence. All possible outcomes, including our thoughts, all of them, all the sick ideas and the great ideas, the stupid ideas, the mistakes, the strokes of brilliance, the lapses of judgment, all came from God. They've all been sitting there in the eternal spiritual realm, waiting to manifest in this dimension, right? So nothing shocks God. Nothing stresses him out. He don't get all twisted from our perversions, and he don't jump for joy at everything that makes us happy. Our ideas of right and wrong and the way we judge good and evil is fucked up. And that's not the way God judges. I know we think if we go to church and if we go to church and read the Bible, then we're going to know the way God thinks. That's what people believe. So then they can judge properly. And if we know the rules, then we can please God. And we think that means we know what good and evil is. First, if you think following rules is making God happy, you're horribly mistaken. God doesn't have rules. I know a bunch of you are going, what the? But especially those folks out there right now that are following rules. Because there's a bunch of you. And, it's A lot of your churches are built around, the churches I went to, they're built around following particular rules. Some like this one, and they highlight it, and ones that set them apart from other churches, right? And then they can look down on those other churches. They see that as being special, makes them special, and God wants us to follow the rules in the way they're following the rules, that they've somehow figured out that that's what God wants them to do. Rule number one for most churches, you got to come to this building on a particular day every week, stand on your head in the pew or whatever for this long, chant this shit, do a bunch of just gibberish and sing these songs, and then you're going to make God happy if you follow those rules. It gives us this sense, a false sense of moral superiority. Just because we followed the rules, we obeyed. We did what we thought was good and right. If we went to a different building, would that make us evil? If we went on a different day, does that make us morally bankrupt? If we, for some reason, don't stand on our head in a certain way and face a certain direction and disobey this part of the rule, are we evil? Is that an evil thing where you're just, oh, no, you stood on your head wrong, you're evil? Complete moral collapse. Morality has a lot more to do with our treatment of others. That's really what God cares about. Like Jesus said, the golden rule, you want to follow a rule. He said, do this, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Maybe be considerate. Or if that's too hard, just don't be a dick. Jesus laid out a couple of principles, not rules. He gave us a new set. He didn't give us a new set of commandments replacing Moses' rules. Jesus steered clear of that. Instead, he helped people understand the weakness of the law by making suggestions. The law has a rule that says don't kill, right? Jesus said, the truth is there's more to it than that. You guys suck. I don't kill anyone. I've never killed anyone. But that's bullshit. Jesus said, you run around here despising everybody, looking down your nose at people and hating all kinds of everything that they're doing because they don't keep up to your standard. But why don't you try this for a change? He told them, why don't you try not hating for a change? Stop being a hater. Hate is such a warped way of looking at God's children anyway, and you may have never broken the rule literally, but you break the rule spiritually all the time. And that's why you were spiritually bankrupt. They were. Yet externally, they were righteous. And remember, unless your righteousness exceeds the Pharisees, you ain't going to see the light of day in the kingdom of heaven. There's Matthew 5:20 says, for I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees, of the scribes and the Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter the kingdom of heaven. Everybody's got their own inner voice guiding them, right? I might think it's wrong to do this and wrong to do that, while you think it's okay and you're perfectly cool to do whatever. It's a perspective thing. Being kind seems like a no-brainer. But if a kidnapper has a knife up to your kid's throat, you may let the kind thing take a back seat in your moral attitudes for a minute. You know what I mean? You may not want to be kind to the dude that has the... Loving is loving everyone. That seems to be this nice moral foundation. Love everyone. Love, right? Makes sense. But it isn't a feeling. It's a command to find a perspective, to find a way to live in love. It is the ultimate spiritual perspective where to live life from. Many people look for love and speak about it like it's something rare, like something like we rarely get to find in this life. But love is all around us, every second of every day. Understanding that constantly, it's touching us as we breathe. Love is omniscient. Consider that. Love is omniscient. It knows everything that can be known. Love doesn't look away. Love doesn't turn a blind eye to sin or anything you do. Love has thought every thought that can be thought, the best and the worst. Love understands. Love forgives. Love finds a way. And love conquers all. If it's the thoughts and the ideas that we entertain that scare us, if it's your thoughts that worry us and anger us, if it's our thoughts and ideas that hurt us and depress us, and the way we register everything makes us crazy, tripping, love thought all of those things first. Omniscience and love are one and the same, not two separate things. They're intertwined. And consider this possibility, that omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence are inescapably locked together in perfect harmony. Do you realize that each of us, each of these traits of God's, are God's exclusively? It doesn't take a genius to draw this conclusion. It's just something that seems to escape a lot of our attention. In pointing it out, I'd like us to realize that everything anyone has ever thought, everything that's ever been thought, every possible iota of power we could imagine is subservient to God's will and literally coming from him. Every second of time, every inch of space is inside of God, part of him. It dwells in him, exists only because he fully and completely wanted it to be. And it is brought to you. That sounds like a commercial. Brought to you by love. Love, the attitude. Love, the spirit. Love, the identity. Love, the only spirit. Every spirit came from love. Every spirit of all the spirits is really just an emanation of the one spirit. Nothing was made that wasn't made by him and of him and to him and for him. What does that mean? Everything that is happening has his seal of approval. Now, of course, I can hear a long list of caveats people thinking out there, right? But there are none. God doesn't need you to make excuses for him. God, and that's what the church seems to do a lot too. God doesn't need you to try to keep him pure. God is every bit as holy as ever without your help. And God doesn't become less of anything just because we use our earthly judgment to decide what is good and evil. I hope you understand a little that knowing good and evil isn't a blessing, right? It's actually a curse. And when we judge between good and evil, we exercise the very nature of God, but from an earthly, carnal perspective that automatically warps our judgment. We don't see things from God's perspective. We see things from a human perspective. Even with a Bible in our hand, we suck at judging. Everyone thinks that. They hold a Bible. If I got a Bible in my hand, I know everything. And I can judge the shit out of you. Everything we think sucks when we're just a human. When we're ignoring the spiritual part of our identity. When we don't acknowledge our spiritual essence, it makes us stupid. It could make Einstein stupid, right? Dumb, right? Remember what the serpent said. For God knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eyes, and that it was desirable for obtaining wisdom, she took the fruit and ate it. That's what the Bible said. You hear it? Knowing good and evil seemingly makes you wise. That's at least what the serpent was peddling. The serpent said, knowing good and evil would make her like God. Is that the lie? Is that the trick the serpent pulled on us? To get us trapped in a good and evil mentality? Always trying to judge what's good, what's evil, what's good, what's bad, right, wrong, all this. Oh yeah, it'll make you just like God. So we do. We hold our Bibles, we go to church, and we think we're just like God. The lie was, they weren't like God already. You're like God already. You don't need to do all this shit and follow rules to be like God. That makes you less like God. What did it actually do? It actually what Satan did and what he's told them and got them to eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, so that humanity ingested that knowledge, and it fucked us up, and it separated us from God. From that moment on, it made us run away from him. Certainly didn't make us closer. It made us judge everything through the lens of good and evil. And here's something I want you to consider. Do you see everything through that lens? Are you seeing everything? Are you judging? You want to examine the way you judge, because we're always looking at stuff, and I find it tends to be the biggest curse on our life, and it makes you feel like shit about yourself because you've judged whatever your life is to be good or bad, good or evil. You're judging on that scale. But to God, he's already considered all of that. He's already considered all of it. He already knows every thought you've ever thought, everything you'll ever do. And he's not judging you on that scale because he didn't want you ever to think that way. Doing this is better. That's wrong. This is right. To do it this way is, that's definitely wrong. You can't do it that way. If you do this before you do that, then it's okay. But what's worse is doing this after you do that. But if you wait too long, it's really bad, right? You're gonna, it's so wise sounding. The right and the wrong of it, the smart and the righteous, the wicked and the iniquitous. Think of all the back and forth and all the lines that they put in your life. How you cross it and you go back and forth, and it's just a whole rules and systems, and it just gives people this crazy. Some people really thrive off that stuff, especially people in church, because they really like they got to systematize everything and control it and work it out like that. But it's all just so fucking yummy. If you're a poisonous serpent, or if you're in a family or a brood of vipers who thrive off laying down rules, but God in his wisdom revealed his grace to us, overruling the law, nullifying it. So it no longer curses our lives with this, is this right or is it wrong? Should I, shouldn't I? Does God want me to do this? Or am I supposed to do that? What a mess. The whole thing is a curse. It's a curse that's been removed. That's right. It's been removed. And that's what Jesus did for us. He showed us that inside of each of us is our Father, the omniscient, all-knowing one, who knew everything you would do, everything you would experience, and wanted you to go through it all. He wanted to go through it all. He wanted to live your life. He wanted to live every second of every life that has ever lived and experience it all. So why is omniscience a blessing? That's why. That's why. To understand that is knowing that you are forgiven. You were forgiven since before you even did anything you could consider to be wrong. Anything coming at you has been considered. Anything coming at you is purposeful. Even if what you think is the worst thing that could happen, isn't really the worst thing that could happen. It's the exact thing that God wanted to go through from inside of you. When you consider the omniscience of God, I mean, really consider it, adopting it firmly into what you believe, it changes how you look at every issue that we face, everything. Everything we might fear, doubt, or worry about. It diminishes our hurts and our sorrow, our pain and our anger. And remember, we only have access to this blessing when we believe. We are so much better off believing. And I invite you to believe right now. It's not like a moment, but when you start believing, begin to believe in God, so you can believe in omniscience, so you can rest. That's what it does for you. And I have no church to sell you on. I don't have a ministry. I'm not going to sit there and pray for you. That's your job. God help me, because it's not going to lead you like you think. It's something you have to adopt into your mindset. And you can pray to ask God to help you understand it and get that in your mindset. But other than that, I mean, I don't have a ministry for you to give to. Maybe I need to do that. But I got some mugs for sale. I know that. And I'd appreciate you liking the videos and sharing it with your friends, hitting the notification buttons, leaving a comment. That would help me. I hear the algorithms on YouTube get sparked when you do that, and then maybe they might even suggest my video to somebody else. Unbelievable. And you'd help me that way, right? And then that would be very, very special. But I sure appreciate you showing up today. We killed lesson 7, man. We locked it up. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm Dubl A, Greg Aalvik, and we're checking out. All right? Peace.